Hey guys, Josh here. Today we are here to talk about the penultimate day of testing ahead of the F1 2016 season. Before we get into talking about testing though, major bit of news today and major progress really in the safety of Formula 1, and that is this halo design was tested by Kimi Räikkönen this morning. You'll see plenty of pictures of it throughout this slideshow, and certainly it's a very interesting concept, a concept that the FIA have been toying with for a very long time, and this full kind of test, during a very important test session does kind of prove to me that this is a serious kind of solution, and one that the FIA are very keen to implement. They seem to be very much behind it. It does seem to be their most favoured solution, but I'm a bit concerned that it's not the best solution out there. To me, it does feel a bit rushed. To me, I'm not sure if it is needed, or if that's indeed the right way to go. If we are going to move to closed cockpits, I definitely look into more of a canopy design than kind of this halo design, which I'm not the biggest fan of really. I mean, would it really have stopped, Jules Bianchi's incident? Would it have stopped Justin Wilson's? I mean, yes, it might protect against a tyre or, bigger pieces of debris, but, a small kind of spring that hit Felipe Massa at the 2009 Hungarian Grand Prix, of course, in qualifying, would that really have, stopped it? It kind of depends which angle the debris comes in from. Is the driver's vision obscured? Would it affect it if the driver's car turned over? Make it harder for the driver to escape from the cockpit? It does kind of raise these problems, and I'm not sure if the FIA have, fully addressed these. I mean, of course, I'm sure they have, but I'm not sure if really this is the best solution. So I'll be very interested in hearing your guys' opinion on this new halo design down in the comment section below. Anyway, let's talk about the penultimate day of testing then, and it was a test session that Kimi Räikkönen topped with the fastest time of the 7 days of testing so far, 1:22.765 for the Finnish driver, set on the ultra-soft compound tyres, 1/10 quicker than the lap time we saw from Sebastian Vettel on day 2 of the test last week, and finally then that lap time was beaten, and 136 laps for Kimi Räikkönen, undoubtedly his best day of testing so far. Although Ferrari did encounter a problem, or a couple of problems really throughout this day, they did get a lot of running done, and things are really looking up for Kimi Räikkönen and the whole Ferrari team, and that's because in second place was Felipe Massa, and you might seem, well, why is that helping Ferrari? Well, this is kind of proves that really lap times definitely do not matter from this test, because we saw Felipe Massa on the soft tyres setting a 1:23.193. 119 laps for Felipe Massa, but the crucial thing about this was that it was only 1/10 slower than what the Mercedes did on those soft tyres on the Monday. So that kind of proves to me that Mercedes aren't pushing, and in turn Ferrari certainly aren't pushing, because Williams are only 4/10 off Ferrari, and they're kind of 2 compounds down from what Ferrari are running. So really that kind of does prove to me that these lap times really do not matter, especially between the top 3. But one thing it does tell me that Williams actually could be fairly competitive this year, and we certainly shouldn't rule them out just because they weren't as quick as Ferrari or Mercedes last year. I mean, if you actually think about it, they could have won the British Grand Prix last year, and just a couple of problems with them running horribly in the wet and horribly around Monaco. If they're able to solve a few of those problems and just gain a slight bit more pace, they certainly have drivers capable of winning races, and that's certainly not out of the question in 2016. It's going to be tough, but certainly I would not rule it out for Felipe Massa, for Valtteri Bottas, and for the whole Williams team. Hulkenberg was third fastest then in his Force India. That lap time was also set on the ultra-soft tyres for Hulkenberg, so just kind of prove how impressive that lap time from Williams was, and that's probably fairly representative for them. But we're going to have to see. Certainly a lot more pace though to come from both Ferrari and hopefully Force India as well. I'm pretty sure there is. 1:23.251 for Hulkenberg then, 137 laps, a fantastic day for Nico Hulkenberg, and also for Max Verstappen as well on the ultra soft tyres. We pretty much saw most teams running the ultra soft tyres for the first time today, and Max Verstappen was one of those. In his Toro Rosso, he said 1:23.382. As I mentioned, just a 10th off the Force India for Nico Hulkenberg. Some really good pace shown from Toro Rosso so far in this early testing stage. And as I mentioned yesterday, Red Bull are going to be very nervous, because for all we know, when we turn up in Melbourne, we could see both Toro Rossos ahead of both Red Bulls. It's certainly not out of the question. Fifth place then today was Nico Rosberg in his Mercedes, 1:24.126. Mercedes were very boring today, just going on the medium tyres for Nico Rosberg. It was a shame. I really did want to see them on the super soft tyres, but clearly that's not going to happen seemingly. Oh, rather the ultra soft tyres either. But yeah, 81 laps for Nico Rosberg then today, 1:24.126. yeah, very impressive lap on the medium tyres, and then overall another really solid day for Mercedes, and certainly they're looking at, still the clear favourites for the 2016, both 2016 titles. Felipe Nasr was 6th today in his Sauber, a 124.760, set on the soft compound tyres, 116 laps for the Sauber team. They've done a great job this week, and certainly today was great for them. Considering, of course, this is their first week of testing, it's been mighty impressive, really. And certainly, Sauber have gone very much under the radar, but that's a pretty decent lap. Just 6/10 off Mercedes, which probably proves, once again, Mercedes aren't pushing. And all lap times are irrelevant, but still, Sauber are quietly going about their business. They're not doing what they did last year, where they just went on glory runs and set fastest laps. They're just, getting on with it, doing some, really good running, setting some, very decent lap times for the compound they're running, and looking mighty impressive for the season ahead. And although I'm not expecting, too much from Sauber, I certainly think that, points could be possible for them in the early part of the year. Could be a struggle for them towards the end of the year, but certainly they do have a chance of possibly beating Manor and possibly beating Haas, because Haas might underachieve, especially considering some of the expectations set by both them and their Formula 1 fans in general. But more on Haas a bit later on. For now, back to Sauber then. Pit stop practice as well for them. But anyway, let's move on to Fernando Alonso in his McLaren. He managed to run the ultra soft tyres towards the end, but didn't actually make any improvements on his 124.870 set on the super soft tyres. 118 laps for the McLaren driver, a good day for McLaren once again. Reliability definitely looking so much better than last year. Pace doesn't seem to be there. They haven't really set any kind of wow lap times, as I like to put it, but they are below the 125s today, and certainly much more pace I think to come from them. They could be up there. Well, they should be comfortably ahead of Sauber, you would suggest, but certainly, once again, we can't take anything for granted with McLaren, but I do believe they have taken a major step forward. And one thing is for sure, though, reliability is so much better for McLaren, and that is exactly what I wanted to see. Pascal Wehrlein in his Manor did a 124.913, just 1/10 back from the McLaren, also set on the ultra soft. Wehrlein's time was set on the ultra soft tyres. Of course, Alonso's time was set on the super soft tyres. First time seeing Wehrlein then on the ultra soft tyres, I do believe. Some really good running for Manor in most days so far, but today certainly wasn't great. Just 48 laps for the team, ran into quite a few issues, and they do seem to be struggling really to get this car to work as well as they would have hoped, really. Not quite getting in the running of the likes of some of their rivals. I mean, certainly more than a certain rival, which I'll come on to a bit later, but not as much running as the likes of Sauber, Force India. I mean, it kind of depends who you're comparing them to, but pretty much everyone. Manor are basically second last on the mileage standings, and it's been a very mixed bag for them in testing, but still some decent pace shown for them at 124.9, as I mentioned. A pretty decent lap time, but I'm sure a lot more is to come from the Manor team. Although, of course, they do have a very simple aero package, that Mercedes engine could definitely help them and possibly propel them up into the points this year. But as I've been mentioning in all my testing reviews, take nothing for granted in 2016. Don't presume anything. I would make any predictions, though. But no, of course you can make predictions, but you guys know what I mean. Don't just presume Manor are going to be up there in the points. Don't presume they're going to be last by miles. Don't presume Mercedes are going to be first by miles, and don't presume Ferrari are going to be first by miles. Don't presume or expect anything, but of course you can speculate, and it's very fun. That, of course, is what I'm doing right now, and I'm sure what a lot of you guys are doing as well, trying to predict the pecking order for this year. Danny Kvyat then in his Red Bull was 9th fastest today, 125.141 for him. That was set on the soft tyres, some new parts on the rear side pod for the Red Bulls today, trialling those parts and seemingly working pretty well for them, the team reported back. 121 laps for Danny Kvyat then, a decent day of testing for Red Bull once again. They've really gotten some solid miles, and just like McLaren, the reliability is certainly looking a lot better. Although the Renault engine doesn't really seem to have made too much inroads, the team, don't really sound that ecstatic, but we're going to have to see. I mean, the speed traps had Renault and Red Bull, right up there, but of course, they're clearly not very representative. I mean, Sauber were quickest on the speed trap, so that does show that Ferrari are certainly not pushing, but a lot more to come from a Red Bull, and they're really yet to show their hand in 2016. We don't really know where Red Bull are. I mean, for all we know, they could be right up there with the top three, or they could be kind of back a bit lower down, maybe 4th or 5th fastest. It's going to be so tight, and it's so hard to predict. 10th fastest then was Jolyon Palmer in his Renault, a 1:26.224 for him, set on the soft tyres, 94 laps for Renault, and a decent day of running for Jolyon Palmer and the Renault team. Slightly interrupted by a few of the red flags today, and I'll let you know who caused them in just a minute, but another decent day of running then for the Renault team. It's certainly been a better second week for them, and things are certainly looking up for the season ahead. In 11th fastest then was Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. He only set a lap time on the medium tyres, and that was a 1:26.488, of course over, or just under rather, 4 seconds off Raikkonen's pace setting. 63 laps for Hamilton then overall. Another great day for Mercedes, just like I mentioned. Nothing too much add to there, because I really do want to talk about Romain Grosjean and the Haas team. Soft tyre lap then for him, a 1:27.196, 78 laps done for Grosjean, but it was a far from good day for Grosjean. They brought out all 3 red flags today, ended up in the gravel twice I believe, and stopped right at the end of the session as well. So it's been a pretty dismal day for Haas, reliability issues just plaguing them, and not too much pace really has been shown by the Haas team so far. They probably haven't really had chance to do kind of any kind of qualifying or maybe even much setup work really, because reliability issues have really been hurting them. So obviously a mistake from Grosjean today, not the best drive from him, but also, that car probably letting him down, and certainly, some from some of the videos that I've seen so far, it doesn't look like that has, really has to drivability yet, but once they do some setup work, and I'm sure, once we head to Melbourne, they should have a much more reliable car. Don't forget, of course, we saw with Red Bull 2 years ago, it looked like they had no chance of even finishing the first race, and then, they were on the podium, although, of course, in the end he got disqualified, but still, don't expect, Haas to be like this when the season starts, although it is a major possibility, and there is a lot of work for the American team to do before the 20th of March, of course. Sorry, the 21st of March. No, yes, 20th of March, I was right first time. Of course, the first race of the F1 2016 season, just 2 weeks tomorrow until the first practice session then, of course, from Melbourne, Australia. Anyway, that is it then for my review of the penultimate day of testing. We'll join you tomorrow then as we review the final day of testing ahead of the F1 2016 season. Crucial day tomorrow, and hopefully we see some very competitive lap times, and hopefully a few more teams will venture out onto the ultra soft tyres as well, and hopefully this ever developing story about the halo kind of head protection, which I believe Sebastian Vettel is trialling tomorrow, and hopefully that story will continue to develop, and the qualifying story as well. Those two seem to be the biggest stories in Formula 1 at the moment off track. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.